some nights change everything. Some moments of cruelty become the catalyst for justice so swift, so absolute, that everyone watching realizes they've witnessed the precise moment when mercy ran out and power showed its true face. Tonight, in the most exclusive ballroom in Manhattan, a pregnant woman stands alone, wine-soaked and humiliated, while laughter echoes around her like broken glass. But the laughter is about to die. Because her husband just walked through the door, and he's the one man in this city you never, ever want to cross. This is a story about the devastating mistake of underestimating quiet strength. About the moment when kindness is repaid with protection so fierce it rewrites the rules of an entire social order. Stay with me, because what happens next will restore your faith in the kind of love that doesn't just comfort, it conquers. Meet Lena Vale, once a waitress living paycheck to paycheck, now the wife of Manhattan's most powerful and mysterious businessman. Pregnant with his child, she's navigating a world that never wanted her in it. Tonight, she'll learn that the quiet man she married isn't just her husband. He's her fortress. And meet Nico Vale, a man whose name makes prosecutors nervous and whose silence carries more weight than most people's threats. He built an empire from shadows and steel, and tonight, someone made the fatal mistake of hurting the only person he's ever truly loved. The story begins. The Aldrich Foundation Gala existed in that rarefied altitude where oxygen felt thinner and every breath cost money. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls of light, each one worth more than most people's homes. Champagne flowed with the casual abundance that only old money could afford, the kind that had forgotten it was once earned and now simply existed, eternal and unquestioned. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, Manhattan stretched into the night like a kingdom of steel and diamond, a city that never slept, never softened, never showed mercy to those who couldn't keep pace with its relentless heartbeat. Lena Vale stood near the bar, one hand resting protectively over the swell of her belly, the other clutching a glass of sparkling water that had gone warm 20 minutes ago. The bubbles had long since died, leaving only flat, lifeless liquid, much like how she felt in this moment. She'd chosen her dress so carefully. Deep emerald, the color of hope and new beginnings. Her friend Kara had insisted it made her glow, made her look like she belonged in rooms exactly like this one. But now, surrounded by women draped in designer labels that cost more than Lena had earned in an entire year before she married Nico, she felt like a child playing dress-up in her mother's closet. 6 months pregnant. Visibly, undeniably, beautifully pregnant in a room where motherhood was something you hired professionals to handle while you maintained your figure and your social calendar. Where babies were accessories to be scheduled between board meetings and spa appointments. Her eyes scanned the crowd, searching for Nico's dark head, that particular way he held himself, completely still even in motion, like a blade resting in its sheath. But he'd stepped out 10 minutes ago when his phone buzzed with that particular vibration that meant business, not pleasure. His expression had shifted in an instant, from attentive husband to something harder, more remote. He'd kissed her temple, promised he'd be right back, and disappeared into the corridor that led to the private conference rooms. 10 minutes. It felt like hours. It felt like drowning. More water, ma'am. A server appeared at her elbow, young and efficient, already reaching for her glass with the practiced choreography of someone trained to anticipate needs before they're spoken. No, thank you. I'm fine. The lie came easily. She'd spent most of her life being fine. Fine when the rent was late and she'd eaten ramen for a week straight. Fine when her mother got sick and the medical bills piled up like snow that never melted. Fine when she worked double shifts at the diner until her feet bled and she still couldn't make ends meet. Fine was a language she spoke fluently, a native tongue learned in childhood and perfected through necessity. The server nodded and melted back into the crowd. Lena shifted her weight, her heels already pinching despite the fact that she'd worn them around the apartment for 3 days, breaking them in until her feet had memorized every pressure point. Nico had offered to buy her something more comfortable, something custom, something that cost more than her monthly rent used to be, but she'd refused. She was still adjusting to the reality of his money. The way he could solve problems with a phone call. The way doors opened before he reached them, as if the world itself was eager to accommodate him. The way people's eyes changed when they realized who he was, fear and respect and calculation all blending into a look she was still learning to recognize. Nico Vale. The name carried weight in certain circles. The kind of weight that made prosecutors nervous and defense attorneys rich. He'd built an empire through real estate development, private security firms, and investments that somehow always paid off despite market volatility that destroyed lesser men. The newspapers called him a businessman. The whispers called him other things. Things Lena had learned not to ask about. She'd known what she was getting into when she married him. Or at least, she'd thought she did. Is this seat taken? An elderly woman with impeccable posture and kind eyes gestured to the high-top table beside Lena. Silver hair swept back in an elegant chignon, pearls that probably cost more than a car gleaming softly at her throat. No, please. Lena stepped aside, grateful for even this brief moment of human connection. Thank you, dear. These events are beautiful, but they do require stamina. The woman settled onto the stool with practiced grace, then studied Lena with the frankness of someone too old to bother with pretense. First gala? Is it that obvious? Only to someone paying attention. Most people here aren't. A smile softened the observation, made it feel like solidarity rather than criticism. I'm Margaret Chen. My grandson is one of the foundation's board members, which means I get dragged to these functions 4 times a year. Lena Vale. She extended her hand, and Margaret's grip was firm, warmer than the air-conditioned chill of the ballroom. Vale. Margaret's eyes sharpened with recognition, but there was no judgment there, just curiosity tempered with something that looked like concern. You're Nico's wife. Not a question. A statement of fact that carried layers of meaning Lena wasn't sure she wanted to unpack. How are you finding married life? Margaret asked, her voice gentle but direct. It's, Lena hesitated, searching for words that were true but not too revealing. Not too vulnerable. Different than I expected. Good different or bad different? Just, adjusting. To the money or to the man? The directness caught Lena off guard, pulled a genuine laugh from her throat, the first real sound she'd made all evening. Both. Smart answer. Margaret accepted a glass of white wine from a passing server, took a delicate sip. Nico Vale isn't an easy man to be married to. Too much weight on his shoulders. Too many people who want things from him. She paused, her eyes distant for a moment. But he chose you. That says something. Before Lena could respond, before she could ask what exactly it said, a burst of laughter erupted from a cluster of women near the auction tables. Loud, performative, designed to draw attention like a spotlight suddenly switched on. Lena recognized the sound immediately. She'd heard it in high school cafeterias, in college classrooms, in break rooms where cliques formed and outsiders were identified and dismissed with surgical precision. The Ashford contingent, Margaret said quietly, following Lena's gaze. Vivian and her little court. Beautiful, wealthy, and utterly convinced that cruelty is sophistication. She set down her wine glass with a soft click that somehow sounded like a warning. Stay away from them, dear. Women like that view kindness as weakness. And they hunt weakness like sharks smell blood in water. When we left Lena, she'd just received a warning from Margaret Chen, stay away from Vivian Ashford and her circle of cruelty. But sometimes, the predators don't wait for you to come to them. Sometimes, they hunt. What happens next will show you exactly why reputation matters, why power has layers you never see, and why the worst mistake you can make is humiliating someone who belongs to a man who never forgets and never forgives. Lena watched the group of women from a distance, 5 figures in their late 20s to mid-30s, each one polished to an impossible sheen. Perfect hair that moved like silk in shampoo commercials. Perfect makeup that looked effortless but required an hour and a professional's hand. Perfect bodies that demanded personal trainers, nutritionists, and the kind of discipline that came from genuine fear of imperfection. The one at the center, the sun around which the others orbited, threw her head back in laughter. Diamonds caught the light at her throat and wrists, each stone probably worth more than Lena's entire wedding had cost. Vivian Ashford. Lena had seen her in the society pages, always photographed at the right events with the right people, her smile as sharp as broken glass and twice as dangerous. "I should probably find my husband," Lena said suddenly, anxiety crawling up her spine like cold fingers. "Good instinct." Margaret squeezed her hand once, brief and reassuring. "Trust it. Always trust it when something tells you to run." But Lena had learned long ago that running didn't always save you. Sometimes the danger followed. Sometimes it was faster. She made her way toward the corridor where Nico had disappeared, moving slowly through the crowd, her hand remaining on her belly, protective, grounding. The baby had been active today, little flutters and kicks that still amazed her. 6 months ago, she'd been a waitress living paycheck to paycheck, her biggest worry whether she'd make rent on time. Now she was married to one of the most powerful men in New York, carrying his child, attending charity galas where the champagne alone cost more than her monthly rent used to be. The transformation should have felt like a fairy tale. Most days, it felt like she was playing a role she hadn't auditioned for, speaking lines she hadn't memorized, waiting for someone to realize she didn't belong and escort her off the stage. She'd almost reached the hallway when a voice stopped her cold. "Oh my God, is that the dress everyone's been talking about?" Lena turned. The blonde from Vivian's group stood a few feet away, her expression a perfect mask of concern that didn't quite reach her ice-blue eyes. She was beautiful in that specific way that required effort and money, personal trainers at 5 a.m., dermatologists on speed dial, stylists who knew exactly how to highlight bone structure and minimize any hint of humanity. "I'm sorry," Lena said. "Your dress. Emerald is so tricky to pull off." "Very brave choice." The woman's smile stayed in place, sweet as poison, deadly as nightshade. "I'm Blair Knox, friend of Vivian's. You must be completely exhausted, standing in those heels in your condition." The way she said condition made pregnancy sound like a disease. "Lena Vale." "Vale." Blair repeated the name like she was tasting wine, considering its vintage, finding it wanting. "Nico Vale's new wife. We've all been so curious about you. He's usually so private about his personal life. Very selective." 3 more women materialized from the crowd. Not coincidence, Lena realized with growing dread, but choreography. They'd been waiting, watching, timing their approach with predatory precision. They formed a loose semicircle around her, casual but deliberate, cutting off her path to the corridor and to safety. "This is Harper, Madison, and you know Vivian, of course." Blair gestured to each woman in turn, her smile never wavering. Up close, they were even more intimidating. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect bodies in gowns that fit like they'd been painted on. Each one a masterpiece of cultivation and calculation. Vivian Ashford stepped forward, her ice-blue eyes tracking over Lena with the detached assessment of someone evaluating livestock at auction. Beautiful but flawed. Valuable but not valuable enough. Lena. What a sweet name. Very wholesome. The way she said wholesome made it sound like a terminal diagnosis. Like something that needed to be cured or, better yet, eliminated. "Thank you," Lena said, because what else could she say? Her pulse kicked up, that old familiar anxiety from being the scholarship kid at a prep school where everyone else had known each other since kindergarten, where every inside joke was a reminder that you would always be outside. "The gala is beautiful. The foundation does important work." "Oh, we know. We've all been on the board for years." Madison, or was it Harper, toyed with the stem of her champagne flute. "It's such a commitment. The meetings, the fundraising, the actual work of caring about people less fortunate. Must be nice to just show up and look pretty, the other one added with a laugh that pretended to be friendly but landed like a slap. Lena felt her face heat, shame and anger mixing into something that tasted bitter. I'm sorry if I gave that impression. Nico and I are both very committed to supporting. Nico. Vivian cut her off smoothly, her smile sharpening into something that could draw blood. Tell me, how exactly did you two meet? I heard it was very romantic. The way she said romantic made it sound sordid. Made it sound like something shameful that should be hidden in shadows. We met at a restaurant. I was working as a waitress. Right. Blair's eyes widened with manufactured delight. Oh my God, that's so pretty, woman. Except, you know, he actually married you. That must have been surprising for everyone who knows him. Shocking, really, Madison added. Nico's dated some very accomplished women over the years. CEOs, attorneys, a diplomat once who spoke 5 languages. She paused for effect. So when he married a waitress. She let the sentence hang, unfinished and damning. Lena's hand tightened over her belly. The baby kicked, as if sensing her distress, as if trying to remind her she wasn't alone even when she felt completely, devastatingly isolated. I should find my husband. Of course. Vivian's smile never wavered, never cracked. I'm sure you don't want to be away from him too long. Men like Nico, they need a lot of attention. Especially from wives who understand how the world works. The implication was crystal clear. Lena didn't understand. Would never understand. Was fundamentally, irreparably out of her depth. It was nice meeting you all, Lena said, the lie bitter on her tongue, burning like acid. She turned toward the corridor again, desperate now, her heart hammering against her ribs. Wait. Harper's voice carried concern that sounded almost genuine. Your shoes. I think your heel is loose. You don't want to trip. Not in your condition. Lena glanced down automatically. Her heel looked fine. Perfectly intact. When she looked up, Blair was right there. Too close. Her champagne glass tilted at an odd angle. Oh God, I'm so clumsy. It happened fast. Impossibly fast and yet slow enough that Lena saw every detail with crystal clarity. Blair stumbled forward, her glass tilting sharply. Wine arced through the air in a golden spray that caught the chandelier light. The glass hit the marble floor with a sound like a gunshot, crystal exploding into glittering shards that scattered like stars. But it wasn't champagne that soaked into Lena's emerald dress. It was red wine. Deep, dark, staining Cabernet that spread across the expensive fabric like blood pooling from a wound. Lena gasped, stumbling backward. Her heel caught on something, a piece of broken glass, the edge of a table, and she nearly fell. Her hand shot out, grabbing the back of a chair for balance, her other arm wrapping protectively around her belly. Please, please, please let the baby be okay. The ballroom went silent. Not gradually. Not politely. It was instant and total, like someone had pressed mute on the entire world. Conversations died mid-sentence. Laughter evaporated. Even the string quartet seemed to falter, their instruments going quiet as if the musicians themselves were holding their breath. Everyone was staring. Hundreds of eyes. Hundreds of witnesses to her humiliation. Lena stood frozen, wine dripping from her dress onto her shoes, glass glittering around her feet like broken promises. Her face burned with humiliation so complete, so absolute, it felt like fever. Like illness. Like dying standing up. The dress was ruined. She was ruined. Standing in the middle of Manhattan's elite in a wine-soaked gown, 6 months pregnant, looking exactly like what Vivian's smile had said she was, a mistake. An outsider. Someone who would never, ever belong. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Blair's hands flew to her mouth, her expression perfectly horrified, her performance Oscar-worthy. I can't believe I did that. I'm such a disaster. Someone get napkins. Please, someone. The silence broke. Not with sympathy. With laughter. Lena stands humiliated, wine-soaked and surrounded by laughter, while Manhattan's elite enjoy her pain like entertainment. But the laughter is about to become a memory of the worst mistake these people ever made. Because Nico Vale just walked through the door. And the man who built an empire from shadows and steel is about to teach everyone in this room a lesson they'll never forget. You can mock many things in this world, but you never, ever touch what belongs to him. The laughter started somewhere in the back of the ballroom. A snicker, quickly stifled but not quickly enough. Then someone else laughed. Then another. Within seconds, the sound rippled through the room like a contagion, cruel and delighted, the kind of laughter that feeds on someone else's humiliation and grows fat with it. Vivian's face held performative concern, but her eyes glittered with pure satisfaction. Lena, honey, are you okay? Here, let me. She reached out as if to help, but the gesture was all show, her hand barely touching Lena's arm before pulling back as if contamination were possible. I'm fine. Lena's voice came out small, shaky, not fine at all. I just need to. I should go clean up. Definitely, Madison agreed, her tone dripping false sympathy that felt like oil on skin. That stain is going to be impossible to get out. Such a shame. That dress was so pretty. Was being the operative word, someone behind them murmured, setting off another wave of laughter that felt like knives. Lena tried to move toward the restrooms, but her heel caught again on broken glass, and she wobbled dangerously. Strong hands caught her elbow, a server, young and mortified, his face reflecting her own embarrassment back at her. Ma'am, let me help you with the glass. I've got it. Her voice cracked. She pulled away from him, from all of them, humiliation crushing her chest until she couldn't breathe properly. The baby kicked again, hard enough to make her wince, and tears pricked her eyes. Hot. Shameful. Inevitable. Don't cry. Don't cry in front of them. Don't give them that satisfaction. Honestly, you'd think someone would be more careful, Harper said, her voice pitched to carry across the ballroom. Especially at an event like this. There are standards, after all. Some people just aren't used to this world, Vivian added, her voice silk over steel. They don't understand the expectations. The rules. How things work at this level. Lena's instinct was to apologize. To say sorry for making a scene. Sorry for getting wine on the floor. Sorry for existing in their space and failing to meet their impossible standards. The words gathered on her tongue, automatic and familiar. Apologies for taking up space had been her first language, learned long before she could read or write. But before she could speak them, the ballroom doors opened. The sound cut through the laughter like a blade through silk. Conversations didn't just pause. They died instantly. Words swallowed mid-syllable. The shift in atmosphere was physical, the kind of change in air pressure that happens before a storm breaks, when the sky turns that particular shade of green and every animal knows to seek shelter. Nico Vale stepped into the ballroom. He moved with the same unhurried precision that characterized everything he did. No rush. No visible emotion. Just controlled forward motion that somehow made everyone else seem frantic by comparison, like butterflies beating their wings against glass. His dark suit was impeccable. His expression was calm. His dark eyes scanned the room with the methodical attention of someone who never missed details, who catalogued everything and forgot nothing. Those eyes found Lena and stopped. 3 seconds. Maybe 4. He simply looked at her. Took in the wine-soaked dress. The shattered glass at her feet. The tears she was barely holding back. The protective curve of her arm around her belly. His expression didn't change. No flash of anger. No narrowing of eyes. Nothing that would give away what he was thinking. But the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Lena had seen Nico angry before. She'd seen him coldly furious on the phone with business partners who'd tried to cheat him. She'd seen the steel beneath his controlled exterior when someone threatened something he valued. This was different. This was surgical. Precise. Terrifying in its complete absence of visible emotion. He crossed the ballroom floor, and the crowd parted automatically. Not because anyone made a conscious decision to move, it was instinct. Survival. The body's ancient knowledge that predators required space. A path opened between him and Lena like the sea dividing before Moses, and every person in that corridor of silence felt the weight of his attention even though he never looked at them. He didn't acknowledge the stares. Didn't glance at Vivian or her friends. His entire focus was on Lena, and there was something in that focus, protective, claiming, absolute, that made her chest loosen slightly even as her heart hammered. "Nico," she started, her voice barely a whisper. "I'm sorry. Someone spilled. Don't apologize." His voice was quiet, meant only for her, but it carried the weight of an order that couldn't be disobeyed. Never apologize for what someone else did to you. He shrugged out of his suit jacket in one smooth motion and draped it around her shoulders. The fabric was warm from his body, expensive and soft, and it covered the worst of the wine stain. His hand settled on her shoulder, steady and grounding, like an anchor in a storm. "Are you hurt?" "No. The glass broke and I almost fell, but I'm fine." "The baby's fine." Something flickered in his eyes then. Relief, maybe. Or the ghost of fear, quickly locked away where no one could see it or use it against him. His hand moved to her belly, just for a moment, as if confirming for himself that she was telling the truth. That both of them, his wife and his unborn child, were safe. Then he turned. His gaze swept the ballroom with the detached assessment of a predator identifying prey. The silence was so complete Lena could hear her own heartbeat, the rustle of her wine-soaked dress, the distant sounds of traffic from the street 30 floors below. Nico's eyes found Vivian. Held there. "Someone spilled wine on my wife." His voice was conversational, almost pleasant, the kind of tone you'd use to discuss the weather or ask about someone's vacation plans. "On my pregnant wife." Vivian's perfect composure cracked slightly. Her smile faltered at the edges, uncertainty creeping in like water through a crack in a dam. "It was an accident, Nico. These things happen at parties." Blair was just. "I'm asking who did it." He still hadn't raised his voice. Didn't need to. The question hung in the air like a blade balanced on its edge, waiting to fall. Who thought humiliating a pregnant woman was entertainment? No one answered. The ballroom had become a tableau, frozen figures in evening wear, champagne glasses suspended halfway to lips, conversations abandoned mid-word. Blair had gone pale, her earlier bravado evaporating like morning dew under a harsh sun. Harper and Madison studied their champagne glasses with sudden, intense fascination. Even Vivian seemed smaller somehow, her white gown no longer looking elegant but exposed. "There are security cameras throughout this venue," Nico continued in that same pleasant, deadly tone. "The Celestine installed them after that incident last year. You remember, the art theft? They're very thorough now. Cameras in every corner, every angle. Crystal clear footage that shows everything." Lena felt the shift in the room. Felt the moment Vivian and her friends realized he wasn't bluffing, that this wasn't a threat but a simple statement of fact. "So let me ask again." Nico's hand remained on Lena's shoulder, grounding her even as he systematically dismantled the women who'd tormented her. "Who did this?" Blair broke first, her voice small and shaking. "It was an accident. I swear I didn't mean to, my heel caught and I stumbled. The glass just slipped." "Red wine," Nico said. "What?" You said you spilled champagne. He gestured to the stain on Lena's dress, the dark burgundy that had soaked through the emerald fabric. That's not champagne. That's Cabernet Sauvignon. Unless I'm mistaken, the Aldrich Foundation serves Chateau Margaux for the VIP donors. Very expensive. Very red. Blair's mouth opened. Closed. No words came out. So either you were drinking red wine instead of champagne, Nico continued, his voice still terrifyingly calm, or someone handed it to you specifically to throw on my wife. Which is it? The silence stretched like taffy, painful and viscous. It was a joke. The words came from Madison, or Harper. Lena still couldn't tell them apart. The woman's face was flushed, her earlier confidence shattered. We were just, she was standing there looking so uncomfortable, and Vivian said. I said nothing. Vivian's voice cut across her friend's confession like a whip. I had nothing to do with this childish prank. Interesting, Nico said, his voice soft as silk and twice as dangerous. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you orchestrated the whole thing. Your friend throws wine on my wife. You make sure everyone's watching. You get your moment of entertainment at someone else's expense. He paused, let the words sink in like poison. But you're right. You said nothing. You just let it happen. Watched it happen. Enjoyed it happening. I'm not sure which is worse, active cruelty or passive permission. Vivian's composure cracked further. Her mouth tightened. Her eyes went hard as diamonds. This is absurd. It was an accident. If your wife is too sensitive to handle social. My wife, Nico interrupted, his voice dropping an octave, is 6 months pregnant and was minding her own business when your friends decided she was easy prey. My wife, who has more grace and kindness in her smallest gesture than this entire room combined, was humiliated for your amusement. He took one step forward. Just one. But it made Vivian step back instinctively, her perfect posture finally breaking. Here's what's going to happen, Nico said, his voice carrying to every corner of the silent ballroom. Everyone who participated in this, everyone who laughed, who watched, who thought cruelty was entertainment, is going to apologize. Real apologies. Said to Lena directly. Naming exactly what you did and why it was wrong. You can't be serious, Vivian said, but her voice wavered. I'm always serious. Nico's arm slid around Lena's waist, protective and claiming. You have two choices. Apologize now, sincerely and specifically, or I make sure. Everyone in this room, everyone in this city, knows exactly who you are. Not the polished, charitable version you show at galas. The real version. The one who finds joy in humiliating pregnant women. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a chance at decency. Whether you take it is up to you. The ballroom had become a theater, every eye fixed on the confrontation unfolding. Lena could feel the weight of all those stares, but with Nico beside her, they felt different. Less like judgment. More like witness. Blair moved first, stepping forward with visible reluctance. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her makeup smudged. Lena. I'm so sorry. I threw wine on you on purpose because Vivian said it would be funny. Because we thought you didn't belong here and we wanted to make you feel small. It was cruel and stupid and mean, and I'm ashamed. The words tumbled out fast, desperate, but they sounded genuine, or at least as genuine as fear and self-preservation could make them. I accept your apology, Lena said quietly. She could feel Nico's slight tension at her easy forgiveness, but this was her choice to make. The others followed. Madison and Harper both apologized, their words varying in sincerity but all carrying the same undercurrent of desperate need to escape Nico's attention. Finally, only Vivian remained. She stood alone, her white gown no longer looking elegant but stark. Exposed. The queen dethroned in front of her entire court. Well? Nico's voice was patient. Infinitely patient. The kind of patience that was more terrifying than rage. Vivian's jaw clenched. Her hands fisted at her sides. For a long moment, Lena thought she wouldn't do it, that pride would win over self-preservation. Then, in a voice barely above a whisper, "I'm sorry for what my friends did. And for not stopping it. It wasn't enough. Not nearly enough." But it was surrender, and everyone in the room knew it. Nico didn't acknowledge the apology. He simply turned to Lena, his hand cupping her face with infinite gentleness. "Let's go home." As they walked toward the exit, the crowd parted once more. But this time, Lena didn't feel small. She felt protected. Cherished. Powerful in a way that had nothing to do with money or status and everything to do with being loved by someone who would burn down the world for her. At the door, Nico paused and turned back to the room. His voice carried clearly in the silence. "If anyone here ever thinks about hurting my wife again, in any way, remember this moment. Remember how easy it was to fall. And remember that I never forget." Then they were gone, leaving behind a ballroom full of people who would never forget the night they learned that some quiet men aren't weak. They're just waiting. Epilogue. 6 weeks later, Lena gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Grace. Vivian Ashford's engagement was quietly dissolved 3 weeks after the gala. The technology CEO cited irreconcilable differences. Industry insiders whispered about sudden investment withdrawals and partnership dissolutions that traced back to a single phone call from Nico Vale. Blair, Madison, and Harper were removed from the Aldrich Foundation board. Their replacements were 3 women from underprivileged backgrounds who understood what it meant to be underestimated. And Lena? She started a foundation of her own, one that helped pregnant women in difficult circumstances. Women who needed protection. Women who needed someone to believe in them. She called it the Grace Foundation. Because sometimes grace means kindness. And sometimes it means teaching people that cruelty has a cost. Life lesson. True strength isn't always loud. It doesn't need to announce itself or prove anything. True strength protects. True strength shows up when it matters most. And true strength understands that the greatest power isn't used to hurt others, it's used to defend those who cannot defend themselves. The people who mock others for their circumstances, who find entertainment in cruelty, who mistake kindness for weakness, they forget a fundamental truth: you never really know who someone belongs to. You never know whose protection they carry. You never know when your moment of casual cruelty will become your greatest regret. Choose kindness. Not because you fear consequences, but because kindness is the only thing that truly makes us strong. Because at the end of every story, the question that matters isn't how powerful you were, it's how you used that power. And sometimes, the greatest love story isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up. Standing beside someone. And making sure the whole world knows that hurting them means answering to you. If this story touched your heart, if it reminded you that kindness matters and protection is a form of love, then please, hit that subscribe button. Share this story with someone who needs to remember their worth. Comment below with a time when someone stood up for you, or when you stood up for someone else. Because stories like this matter. They remind us who we want to be. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, you are never as alone as you think you are. Someone, somewhere, would move mountains for you. Until next time, choose kindness. Choose grace. Choose love.